All right, lights, camera, action.
Wow, special.
Yeah,
I'm on the big
Welcome,
stage. I've
you're on the
made it.
big stage. Yeah,
wel- welcome to this week in guns. My name is Matthew
guns.
LaRosiere. No, I'm just kidding. That's my favorite. I was listening to them before. Welcome to the Statecraft series. Today we are going to be talking about NATO very tangentially, but
Mm-hmm.
actually, first and foremost, McGuire and I are going to talk about something we started last week when we were talking about Israel and Palestine,
Oh
which
no.
I actually find more interesting than the Israel Palestine conflict, which is I think the US gives way too much to its allies in terms of like support and all sorts of stuff. And the US doesn't get much in return, especially when it comes to ally obligations. And so I think the United States should say, listen, we're going to go back to bilateral treaties where you have to bring something to the table that's of value to us, and you have to actually participate and do things like that. And yeah, if you want naval protection from us, you have to deploy your navy to the sea too and protect our ships on the high seas and things like that. And I think that'll do two things. One, I think it'll cause the allies that actually have anything to give or anything like that to actually be useful to us in terms of protecting our shipping. But two, it'll help American shipping because if we only protect American flagged ships and I guess our allies too. Like I would say like the UK, Poland, maybe Australia because they actually do some useful stuff for us sometimes. But like, it would really help our shipping, especially because people would want to flag under the United States as opposed to like whoever the cheapest country to flag under is. And that's what I wanted to talk about: flagging ships.
So a de facto tariff, then I suppose, or a reverse tariff, and well, in a sense, you're imposing a tax of fuck you. We're not going to help you if you're in distress upon other nations' ships to try and build up American industry. No.
No, it's not a tariff. It's just listen, if you want American protection, your boat has to have an American flag on it, and I would go further to say have an American crew on it. Then we'll protect your ship. So
Well, I think this starts to get into some interesting territory then. If we want to take this to the extreme of our prior conversations, uh, I don't think that there's such thing as an American crew if a crew
And
can
then Hundo takes a shot.
arbitrarily say that they're part of the United States, as I think they should be able to. I think people should be able to self-identify with nations as they see fit. And I think that that's been a talking point in the past. So I think the idea of an American crew is kind of bunk right off the bat because anybody could be an
well,
American
I
crew.
mean, I mean, yes, technically you are correct, but I'm saying like as in I'm saying this is something we could implement tomorrow, honestly. We
Gotcha.
could
Okay.
we like yes, ideally anyone can be an American and things like that, but like I'm
Right, but
like
that's not going to happen. Yeah.
that is not going to happen. But
Hmm.
like Joe Biden could literally come out tomorrow and say, "Yeah, buddy, NATO, get fucked. If you want our protection, flag American vessels." And I would say you don't necessarily have to have a 100% American crew, but I would say like 50%, like minimum, you need in order to receive that protection. In order to have like an American flag, you have to have 50% American crew on board.
Interesting. So is this in your hypothetical? Is this just about naval protection, like Somali coast pirates, Navy
Yeah.
intervening on that? Okay, so this doesn't apply to like Coast Guard ships in distress, or does it?
No, I mean, if your ship's in distress, we should go and help. Yes, like if your ship is in distress, I think everyone has a moral obligation to help. I'm talking about like piracy, privateering, and when you're at war and you're sailing the high seas and the German U-boat torpedoes you. If you're an American ship, we should try to protect you from the German U-boat.
So I suppose I would ask, would being boarded by violent men with guns holding you under threat of loss of life or limb not be a distressful situation?
Maybe. I don't think so. I mean, yes, technically, but like the whole point of government is a mafia protection racket. So
Sure.
You don't pay the protection, you don't get the protection.
It looks like Sonic had a disgusted face there for a second. Do you have any thoughts there, buddy?
No,
Sonic
no,
probably believes we should protect everyone, including our enemies.
no. No, I just think that uh, we have an obligation to our allies and perceived allies, and even if they have the ability to help us and they don't, or they even don't and don't, we should still protect them to spread influence whenever we want to and necessary.
I would argue that we have enough influence already, and that doing that is marginal influence at best. Like, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Most countries want to trade with the US because we are the biggest economy, we are the baddest economy. We do so much for the world, and even right now, like, China is trying to decouple itself because Xi Jinping is trying to like make a
Hello and
a
welcome to
third way basically, and it's not working. Like, his economy is slowing down super hard because, just gonna be honest with you, the United States economy kind of runs everything, and even more so, like, American culture is so powerful. Like, people speak English in other countries with American accents. They learn with American accents. They watch our movies. They like, American culture is so dominant. I would not be surprised if, like, 200 years from now, like, the world was basically Americanized.
Okay. I still think that well, we have an obligation to allies, even if they can't necessarily protect us. They can still provide for us in other ways that may not necessarily be
Like how?
militarily, economically, right? Like there's economic allies, as
Okay.
we talked about last time.
That's different. That's a different discussion. I'm talking about purely military stuff. Like, I don't like the idea of economies like intertwining makes us allies. Like, we are not allies with China just because we trade with them.
Well, you can't we use our military might to protect other economies that then in turn help us?
I mean, I suppose, but what are we getting out of it though? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I think Europe is a massive drag on the United States. I don't think Europe actually provides us the benefit that we think it does. And the only reason why we are in Europe right now is because there were two bloody world wars that were fought there, and we just got tired of sending guys over to go fight in those wars. So we decided to occupy Europe to stop another world war from blowing up.
Yeah, wasn't it you that said last time that the U.S. is the sole reason why there hasn't been a World War III?
Literally, well, in Europe, but yeah, literally the only reason why there has not been a major European war, other than, the recent one with Russia and Ukraine, is because of America. And it's specifically because it's kept the competing Europe, like, specifically it's kept Germany and France from fighting, which most European wars boil down to Europe or France and Germany fighting in some capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Major ones from the 19th century onward. So oh, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. I was just clearing my throat. I think if I to add on Sonic's point, I think the broader point of American diplomacy kind of comes down, okay, the American military diplomacy kind of comes down to trade and free and open trade policy. I mean, that goes back to, even the founding fathers, right? You look at some of the first conflicts the United States is in, right? The Barbary Wars, Jeffersonian gunboat navies, all that. It all comes down to anti-piracy operations overseas to enable American free trade, because ultimately you don't get free trade without some sort of intervention, right? It's paradoxical, but there's a role for government both in regulating domestic economies to ensure freedom and foreign economies, right? If you create a power vacuum, somebody fills that power vacuum. They take advantage of other economic agents, such as the pirates, right? They seize goods with force, and so to enable free trade that the United States benefits from, as you've acknowledged, and as the United States requires, it's important to maintain a status quo of freedom of navigation. It's important to maintain protections for trade passing through the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, right? There's all these areas across the world where maybe individually they're not significant trade partners to the United States. Maybe individually they're questionable actors or whatever. But the sheer tonnage, sheer volume of dollars that pass through those regions is immense enough that it does justify the American expense in maintaining a presence and ensuring that merchant vessels are protected through those regions and ensuring that the current status quo is maintained. That's what it comes down to. The United States isn't a massive production, well, relatively speaking to where it was 50, 60 years ago. It isn't a massive production economy anymore. It's not a massive producer of goods. It's largely a service economy that's reliant on imports and exports and coordinating international business. So it's important to maintain the confidence across the globe in international trade, and that's what this comes down to, I think.
So one, we still are a massive manufacturing economy. I think for at least high tech stuff, we're still like
Mhm.
the number one and things like that. And a lot of finished goods, we're the best. We just don't make a lot of input goods.
Mhm.
Two, the Barbary Wars were literally it wasn't free navigation. It was specifically protecting American ships from the Barbary pirates, specifically American ships. We didn't give a fuck about European ones, and the fact that we went and conquered the Barbary pirates and helped the Europeans out, that was that was a happy accident in relation to us just getting mad and wanting to stop them from harassing our ships and pirating our ships. Three, I'm not saying that we don't have freedom of navigation. I'm just saying if you want to have freedom of navigation, you have to do it with an American vessel. So if you want, like, if a small country wants protected trade with us, either one, they can provide us some military benefit. And I'm not even saying, because like Sonic said this on the Discord, and I don't think I said this very well. I'm not saying everyone has to have a navy the size of the United States and deploy it on the
Mhm.
ocean like that. Obviously that's not going to happen, but like I don't like the idea that Germany has a navy that patrols the Baltic and only the Baltic when we protect all the rest of the trade world routes of the world for them. So either one, Germany can send their navy out into the big open blue water ocean, and if American ships come under attack, they go protect them. Or two, if like Germany or like a small country wants to trade but they can't afford to do that, they can hire an American vessel to get their cargo for them, and then the American vessel will be protected by the U.S. Navy. So I'm not saying we can't have freedom of navigation, but I'm saying it should be for either Americans specifically or American allies who actually pull their weight, so to speak, protecting American vessels.
Sure, I think I think it's a difficult line to draw though, especially in a modern globalized economy. I do agree, right? Obviously, the Barbary Wars were to protect American flag ships, but the broader point is that the United States economy has been built around this idea of international trade, and that's even more so emphasized today. And I think it's unreasonable to expect that the sheer volume of trade that we're talking about goes through American shipping because ultimately, the American shipping market is relatively small, especially maritime based. And that can't necessarily massively scale up. There's concerns about, the number of people who are willing to go into the maritime industry. There's concerns about, ship producers. There's been a decline in dockyards and wharfs in the United States since, the last 70 years. And I think that there is a limit to what those resources can achieve in terms of the size of American maritime shipping. So even in the most ideal world, right? I think I don't have numbers to back this up, so I suppose this is kind of just conjecture from me. But I don't think that it would be sustainable to try and force the bulk of the trade that the United States directly benefits from to go through American shipping, because I just don't see a way for that to be feasible in terms of the numbers. And so the extension of that then is that you're sacrificing part of the American economy at that point. Um, and then further, again, that is conjecture, but I think a more concrete point is that this international trade is very essential to the American economy. So by trying to off-put more a significant portion of the assurance of freedom of navigation for non-American flagged vessels onto other nations, you destabilize things a little bit. As it stands right now, the United States has confidence in what it can achieve, what it can support. The world has confidence in that, right? The United States consistently maintains a massive military. It maintains a very competent military. It's been consistent for the last, however many years. By off-putting that burden onto other entities, you start to introduce uncertainty, both in whether or not those entities will continue to support, whatever military aspects that they're contributing to this international trade, but also, I think more significantly, you introduce the possibility of, to keep with the theme here, a state like Germany, who might be a major player in the future and ensuring, freedom of navigation, suddenly saying, I don't like France anymore. I'm going to go ahead and try and cut off trade to France. And then you create a, massive global issue with that. I think that there's a number of issues that, from an American perspective, crop up by not having direct, overwhelming control over that, which outweigh the benefits of no longer incurring the costs of protecting these vessels.
Okay, well, okay, so one, I don't think I'm being clear. What I'm saying is that global shipping should be an American industry. Like, and I don't see why we can't literally do that by banging the gavel and saying this is how it's going to be from now on. Like these are the rules as I've laid out earlier. So that's my intention. One, mostly just because the world, like, yes, I mean the American economy does benefit from global trade, but global trade, all, like, everyone benefits from the American economy growing. And I honestly feel like America pays kind of for the rest of the world's development with, because we allow things like free trade to exist with our giant economy and things like that. And it really feels like the American worker pays for the rest of the world to live nicer and nicer. And yeah, we benefit, but I don't think we benefit nearly as much as the rest of the world does. The Europeans, I don't necessarily care as much about like Africa free riding off of us, or Asia, East Asia, right, free riding off of us. But Europe free riding off us really pisses me off, because they have the capacity to defend themselves, but they don't, because they free ride off of us. And that more so than anything else pisses me off, which is why I'm basically like, I'm done with this whole order of like America should it is our obligation to protect the world. I don't agree with that. I think America should protect itself and allies that actually pull their weight. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying they have to do equal. I'm just saying they have to do what they can at their level, which most of our allies don't. Most of our allies free ride off us.
I think that there is a case to be made that the American worker does enjoy a lot more prosperity. I've heard a lot about the UK because obviously English speaking, there's a lot of communication back and forth, but salaries over there are abysmal. I'm looking at figures right now, what somebody might call pulling a destiny, and the average UK worker, average salary for a 40 to 49-year-old worker over there is around 42,000 euros a year, which you can do the conversion. But you can compare that to the United States.
I'm gonna cut you off at the pass. The UK is actually one of the few countries that I think does pull its weight and actually does do a good job at, like, and they have a very sizable navy. So the UK is, I would not say the UK is one of the free riders. I would, it's like the UK, Poland, the Baltics, they aren't free riders, and like, I'm sure there's a couple I'm not mentioning, but virtually everyone else in Europe is a free rider.
No, certainly, but I do think European salaries on average, and I know this is talking about the UK, but this is a trend I've heard speaking to other Europros. European salaries on average are dwarfed by American ones. The average UK worker, as I said there, I don't know the conversion off the top of my head, like $45,000 a year, something like that, salaried. The average American is sitting at around 59,000. Now, obviously, there's other factors at play other than just,
this is more complicated. I agree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I do think that there is an American benefit to the trade system that we hold. There's been a lot of economic development in the United States specifically built around this trade, and American workers do enjoy a lot of the fruits of that. Now, I do respect the position that that trade should be on American flagged vessels. I do respect the fact that we should be emphasizing our own more than international economies, but I just think the opportunity cost at play is so great. Um, I don't see a way for that to be mitigated, short of long-term development. Obviously, building up these dockyards, finding people who are willing to go into the maritime industry, finding people, training them, developing that expertise, right? All of these steps that you have to take to try and transition this trade over takes a tremendous amount of time and a tremendous amount of investment.
Oh yeah.
And it is a massive risk. There's nothing to say that, say China will turn around and offer cheaper rates as the American markets are expanding, and all of a sudden China becomes a much larger global hub for trade because they have cheaper workers, right? There's nothing to stop Mexico from doing that. There's nothing to stop any of that. The United States has developed salary expectations. We're talking about very prime real estate where these, wharfs would have to be built, where these dockyards would have to be built to support this expansion in ship production. American workers, I already mentioned that, but American education costs are tremendous, right? So there's tremendous costs associated with this that make it a very risky venture to try and transition things over. And ultimately, the flip side of that is the risk of losing out on even a fraction of this. Now, you do make a good point that the rest of the world is as dependent on the United States as the United States is dependent on the rest of the world. But that doesn't mean that if you make this kind of transition, another smaller or another cheaper market couldn't undercut the United States and displace us from the position that we hold. And then that upsets the paradigm, and it really hurts the American economy that's built around this globalization.
Maybe. I mean, one thing you said earlier that I didn't catch, but I'll bring up now in response to that is American shipping is actually giant. We have lots of shipping companies based here that ship, billions of tons of shit all over the world. The problem is that they already do flag it under the cheapest available option. Like Panama is like the capital for flagging ships, or just because of how their flagging laws work and things like that. So the overwhelming majority of ships, or it's not the majority, but a lot of ships get flagged in Panama because of how cheap it is and things like that. And to me, that's like that's a form of one. And I'm not into taxes, but that's like a form of corporations avoiding taxes and things like that. And
Absolutely.
I don't like that. So I mean, the progressives are gonna like me because I'm trying to get back tax revenue from these companies sending tax, what should have been our tax revenue overseas. But the other thing is that I don't really agree, because when we saw the Houthi rebels firing, when we saw them, attacking ships, and they still are attacking ships, it's not in the news because nobody's reporting on it, but it's still happening. But when the Houthi rebels were firing at ships, shipping rates increased because the ships had to go around and all that stuff. And I honestly think that America we sent ships over there to kind of protect it, but we honestly half-assed it. I assure you, if an American ship actually got hit, we would have bombed the fuck out of them. And in fact, one did, and we did bomb the fuck out of them a little bit. But I mean, it wasn't to the degree that I think it would be if it was a civilian ship, because the ship that got hit was a U.S. destroyer, I want to say. So
Yep.
like, nobody cares if people in the military die. So
That's that's a pretty frequent grim trend. What was it? The early 2000s. There was a suicide bombing of a
yeah, the USS
destroyer.
Cole.
Yep. Uh, it's interesting how little respect the Congress and the presidency expend to these really absurd military losses. You would expect that there'd be a lot more gung ho. Well, we got to go back over and avenge our boys, sort of thing. But
Yeah.
that maybe speaks to another issue, which is how willing Americans are to protect Americans. But
Yeah.
no, you do make a good point about the flagging, and I think I do agree that it's a massive issue that there is this tax avoidance. But
And
I
I
don't.
hate taxes. I hate taxes, but anyways.
No, exactly. If we're gonna exist under a shitty system, though, everybody should exist under the shitty system. There shouldn't be
Yeah.
rich players free to skirt the side. If you have an issue with the system, you should advocate to change the system or overthrow the system.
Yeah, we should
instead of
overthrow
letting
the bourgeois. Overthrow our bourgeois
There we go.
captors.
There we go.
Cringe.
No, but it is a fair point, and I think that is something that should be addressed. And it's really concerning that people are so gung ho about tax the rich and everything, and they're talking about Elon Musk and Taylor Swift, but actual corporations sort of slide under the radar when they're the biggest expenditures in terms of tax avoidance.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're totally good. Go for it.
So, I mean, it's because like people like stories, and stories
Mhm.
involve characters, and even though corporations are technically people, they are not very good characters. Like even in
Sure.
Cyberpunk, the Arasaka Corporation requires, a couple, it requires people to represent, the character of Arasaka, which is, the story of Cyberpunk is about like corporations and things like that. But people don't think that like tax law is sexy, and it isn't. And especially shipping company tax laws about how they avoid it through flagging under Panamanian flags is it's not sexy at all. Nobody cares. It's not as sexy as Jeff Bezos has $50 bajillion. So that's why.
Absolutely, and I think that starts to inch into the deeper problems with tax law too. When you look at a lot of these, figures on, Jeff Bezos made this much last year, it's unrealized gains, and that
Yeah.
enters into some pretty how do you tax that territory, right? Versus
The
shipping
wealth
companies.
tax.
Exactly, you're going to tax somebody on money that they don't actually have. But
Well,
I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you can tax someone on money on money they haven't realized, does that mean you have to reimburse them for money that they lost?
Yeah, it
Hmm.
enters into some strange territory, but I think it's an interesting rabbit hole to go down because they can apply for things like loans and mortgages and whatnot based on these. So it's a weird twilight zone of is it their money or not?
In a
But
way,
when you look at it, right, these are the oh go ahead.
I was saying, in a way, we already have a system like that in returns of tax returns and based off of income tax. So,
Tax returns are theft. It is theft.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's okay that the government can take my money and I have to go begging back to them for it. No,
Yeah.
fuck you.
And also, we have to
Government
go
should
through.
loans.
We have to go through like 2 different organizations to get our to make sure that they're done correctly, or else we're committing tax fraud. When the government can do it on their own and know exactly how much we owe them, anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they hired that 84,000 IRS agents for the all
Yeah.
that, and it's like it's slower than ever to get your tax return. I'm still waiting on my tax return. I'm like I
I
fucking
haven't.
hate the government.
I haven't done mine yet.
You
Oh,
got
you gotta get on
you
it.
got a week. You got a week, bud.
Getting there. Getting there.
They're not gonna care about little old me.
It's okay. I didn't file my taxes for like 5 years, so
Jesus.
it's okay.
Yeah.
I think that
It's
the
okay.
threshold is something like $16,000,
Well,
12,
the
somewhere
thing
around there.
is, I always got a return. I never had to pay more, and I've never had to pay taxes. So they don't
Uh-huh.
listen. The government doesn't give a fuck if you don't file your taxes if they have to give a return. Oh yeah, take your time, bud. Take your time. But
Yeah.
as soon as you owe them $1, they will be at your front door. Don't worry.
Yep, exactly.
Be
Don't worry,
kicking.
they'll let you work out a payment plan.
They'll be kicking in
Yeah.
your fucking door.
shooting the Tannerite dog at my front door. Anyways, I think we can transition this into a little bit less geopolitical discussion, and we can discuss things at home.
Uh-oh.
Have you guys heard, that is related to taxes? Have you
Ooh.
guys heard that California has implemented a wealth tax?
No.
I've not, no.
No.
Okay, so they recently implemented basically it's a capital gains tax on home sales,
Oh.
and it's I haven't read the specifics of it. I haven't read the bill or anything, so I'm not by far nowhere near an expert. I've just read that California implemented this like 4%. It's basically a 4% capital gains sales tax on home sales, and their housing market crashed. Like home values plummeted like the next day.
Bro, we should
And
then we should
like
get your
all
home
like
over there. We can do our thing over there.
well, I mean, but they're still fucking brutally expensive. But like the people who are the most pissed off, and the reason why we're hearing about this is people in Beverly Hills with like million and billion-dollar mansions are like they're mad because their $50 million mansion dropped to like $30 million, and they're like, "Argh!" So like
So
it like
so the people who
oh
are
god.
mad aren't the regular working class people. They're probably happier about this. It's the rich people who didn't want this in the first place.
Well, I'm just saying I've only heard people in Beverly Hills complaining about it. That's not to say that it hasn't hurt everyone. I mean, like the tax does affect literally everyone
Sure.
because homes are like it doesn't if you have a shitty house or $1 million mansion, it's treated the same by the government no matter what. So it is actually one of the few taxes that it actually could across the board affect people of different wealth classes. Whereas like, income tax more disproportionately affects the poorest people because they tend to live off of income versus rich people who don't live off of income. This house, this house value tax basically will affect some portion of everyone in all the income brackets basically in classes.
Okay.
In general, taxes always do affect like whenever they're levied and they're levied in a way that it's like it affects everyone. The poorest people are affected the most because they tend to have the slimmest they have slimmer margins to live off of than other people. And I say this as someone who has I don't want to say I'm poor, but like when I was in college, I did live on a much tighter budget, and if taxes went up or whatever, I felt that money coming out of my pocket
I'm
and
currently
things like
living that
that.
right
So
now. There's a reason why
yeah,
we should have
you work two
land
jobs.
value tax.
That's a different discussion, and I'm not gonna have that discussion.
We're talking about taxes,
I
right?
will fight it. No, we will not talk about your cultism. But
Occultism.
basically, the long story short is, yeah, the rich
Oh, god damn it.
are crying about it, but it's also because they're the ones who like the media goes and talks to when they ask, like when they want to get people's opinions, they go to the rich people and things like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Is that it? Just taxes suck.
I mean, taxes. I mean, listen, I fucking hate taxes. I think there is a better way to do it, and
Sure.
that is by direct services of fees. But
Okay.
that's a different discussion. But I fucking hate taxes.
We got other things we can talk about as well since we're done with NATO and taxes, it seems.
I'm done with NATO. We need to get out of NATO. Done.
We should stay in NATO.
Pull out.
We should invest more in NATO.
No, we should invest less.
All right.
We should make the Europeans. We should build a wall and make NATO pay for it.
Make the Europeans pay for it.
We should build. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Originally, NATO it was the United States like doing most of the heavy lifting, but that's because Europe was bombed to shit after World War II, and a fuck ton of their guys had died, and like a lot of their industry, especially in Germany, was destroyed.
Mhm.
So yeah, go figure. America had to station troops, but the original plan of NATO was the idea of the Europeans would, if Russia invaded, the Europeans would fight, and if they needed help, the Americans would send. It would be like World War II, where they would eventually they build up a force to go and fight.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
So,
Don't forget nuking Frankfurt. That was always. Yep.
Nuking Frankfurt with those backpack demo bombs that like the guys who carried them were like, yeah, we were basically like nuclear suicide bombers because we'd have to sit in the blast zone to make sure it went off. So
Yeah. Gotta get out the Davy Crockett. The Russian tanks are coming.
Send
Send
in the mentally ill.
500 men in steel boxes.
We'll just send all the suicidal teenagers over there.
Schizo Brigade.
They're where you belong.
That's a funny story. I've heard.
Was that your battalion?
I've heard people who Delta's frowning in shame. He's been called out.
Damn. No, Marines never got to. We're the only service that never got to mess with nukes.
Dang. What about your? You said the Navy.
I mean,
guard. What?
Wait, you said what branch?
What?
What branch?
The Marines never
Oh,
got
the
to
Marines.
Marine Corps never got to detonate a nuke. We just defended them.
Yeah,
We
you
guarded
got
them.
you got to stand in your pretty little uniforms outside of the weapons rooms on aircraft carriers and battleships.
Yeah,
Close enough to get
cringe.
ass cancer. That's
Literally.
about it.
But yeah, I definitely think NATO needs to be at the very least, if we don't pull out of NATO, I think we need to have like a talk with NATO and be like, listen, guys, this can't stand where you guys get free healthcare and all this shit, and America basically shoulders NATO by
So you want
itself.
the U.S. to have free healthcare and stuff, right?
Well, I don't listen. If I had a gun to my head and I had to get free healthcare, I would prefer that we paid for it at rather than giving the Europeans free defense. But I would just rather, in general, not spend the money on defending the Europeans when they get to have free healthcare. Like, why can't I have that tax money in my pocket?
See, then when the gunman shoots you in the leg, then you get healthcare. Then you're covered. It's a win.
You
I'm
just
not
got to
even.
sue your way into it. The
I'm not
American
even.
way.
Listen. If we're gonna defend Europe, they need to do something for us. And I say all of Europe should pay for America's healthcare. Good luck, guys. Good,
Base.
Good
good
luck.
fucking luck.
Mandatory blonde Polish chicks for everybody.
I'd be down with that.
Well, hold on. Poland actually pulls their weight, so we have to go somewhere else, right?
Yeah, it would have to be and the funny thing is France pulls its weight for itself,
Yeah.
not for NATO, for itself. So they are like not really a problem. It's funny, France does what everyone else in NATO should do, which is they 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 build a military for their best interest out and things like that.
Wait, didn't
So like
didn't France
I hate France, but I respect them.
didn't France, was it a couple weeks ago or last month? Didn't they also say like, hey, we're gonna fire a warning shot nuke at Russia?
Yeah.
No, well, that's their policy. Their policy is we will nuke as a warning. But I fucking hate France because they're the only other country on Earth with a nuclear powered aircraft carrier, and all it does is sail around the Mediterranean. You can sail around the whole Mediterranean on one bunker of fuel in a ship. You do not need a nuclear aircraft carrier to sail around the goddamn Mediterranean.
It's
fucking.
it's big dick money. It's big dick energy. Come on, that's big
It's
dick
not
energy.
even that big. It's barely bigger than one of our jump carriers.
No, that's
Well, hang
big.
on a second.
Instead
They
instead of
did
sailing
some cool shit in Mali.
instead of sailing around the world in this nuclear ship that they have, they're literally just doing the Mediterranean. They spent all this money to do this awesome fucking thing and only using it in one
I'm pretty
place.
sure-
That's big dick.
I'm pretty sure during the bombing, the Kosovo bombing campaign, they didn't even deploy the carrier until America had deployed 2 carriers there. It's like, come the fuck on. What the fuck? We had to pull one carrier out of another theater to send it to Kosovo, and then the French were like, ho ho ho, le baguette.
Oh.
It's like, fuck off.
Finalement, je vais.
I respect the French because they do everything in their own best interest, but it pisses me the fuck off that they're our ally because they're like the most selfish ally of all time. Like even Germany, it does a little bit better in that regard, even though they don't spend any money on their military. Like it's so bad that you guys remember when Zika virus was, or sorry, not Zika, what's the disease where you shit blood out?
There's Ebola.
Fuck. Ebola, yeah, Ebola. So during the Ebola crisis in 2015, Germany tried to ship a military shipment of medical aid to wherever it was happening, and their C-130 couldn't even get off the ground because they hadn't maintained it. So that's
I
how.
haven't heard about this.
Yeah, no, it's like Germany is fucking useless, and even they do more than France. Like France is fucking garbage.
There's something that we wanted to talk about for a
No
while.
shit.
If we're done with this topic, and we've been needing to talk
Okay.
about it for a while. Senator Armstrongism.
Oh boy.
Okay, it's a good thing because I just watched his speech again last night, and it's funny because people say his whole thing is about Okay, let's back up. Let's back up. What is Senator Armstrongism? I'll let you guys go, and then I'll say what it actually is, because I actually watched the speech again last night as I drank a glass of wine.
I watched it a couple weeks ago, and from what I can call, overall, it's like a might is right style of governing, where the people who are strong should be able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, regardless of what the weak want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
McGuire.
That's generally my perception, but I should cliff notes this. I haven't done my my homework, and
Uh-oh.
90% of my opinion on it is informed by Metal Gear. So
Well, that's where it's from.
Yeah,
that's
that's where it's from.
So
Yeah.
perfect.
Metal Gear Rising,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. This isn't. This is distinct from like the
It's
actual...
Senator Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is distinct from the evangelical preacher.
Who?
What?
There's a different thing associated with Armstrongism than like a fucking...
No.
Okay.
No, we're solely
Gotcha.
talking about Metal Gear.
This is
Metal Gear Rising.
Rising Revengeance. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Then I'm 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay.
What the fuck are you
What do
going
you
on
think?
about?
What's your thesis of Senator Armstrongism?
Mine,
Yes.
generally the might makes right thing. I think it's really a parody of Trump, to a degree.
He did
Pre-Trump.
say in 2013, he did say we will make America great again.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder too if Trump watched Senator Armstrong and thought,
Like, yes.
man,
Like, this sounds
No.
awesome.
we just need someone to punch him to see if his skin turns into nanotechnology.
Well, you gotta enlist that Iraqi shoe thrower guy. See, that
We
should
need
be,
to
should
get
be
a
enough.
half Brazilian, half Japanese samurai to go cut his arm off and see if he can reattach it. Okay. So you're both wrong. Senator Armstrongism is not about might makes right. It's actually about allowing people to live the life they want to live. And the reason I say that is because his whole thing is about how he couches things in terms of weak and strong, but what his major thing is he doesn't like that a group of people can dictate the terms of how individuals live their lives. And like he is unironically like the most liberal who ever lived ever, because his whole thing is about I want to make sure that people can live their lives unmolested by groups of, he calls them weaklings, but groups of
Yeah.
people who gang up
Politicians,
on
the
the
rich,
individual.
etc., right?
Yeah, exactly. And he says this because he's and again he couches things in weak and strong, but he says like most people are weak because they give into these things. Like he talks about like trivia, reality TV, sports and stuff. Like he talks about how people are distracted by they're distracted by like these trivial things in life, when in reality they should be living their lives to their fullest and things like that. And that's why he respects Raiden, because Raiden did that. Raiden, he lived his life to the fullest. I don't know, did you guys ever play the Jetstream Sam DLC?
No, I have not. No.
No.
Okay, well, the long story short is you guys learn Jetstream Sam's history, and Jetstream Sam is basically like kind of he lived a life that Raiden did before and things like that, and that's why Armstrong wanted him, and that's why he got what's his name, the Super Nintendo boy and Dick Cheney and the hot French girl. They were all, he was collecting people who were all like they had actually fought for what they believed in, and they had struggled in life, and they weren't shy about what they believed in, and they didn't shy away from that, basically. Does
Sure.
that make sense?
Yeah, but the problem overall relies on the fact that it will end up being a might is right thing if you have a group of people who, or like everyone in a society, say like, hey, I want to do this when I want to do this, how I want to do
Oh,
this.
you cut off Sonic.
Oh.
All I heard is everyone in a society.
Well, everyone in a society, if you have everyone in a society saying what they want to do. Hey, hello?
You okay there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm okay.
He's a little cold because he's
I'm moving my mic closer. But anyways,
Frozen.
oh. So
I'm gonna kill
he
myself.
finally took off his fucking
That's
glasses.
That's it.
He showed his
He's
eyes.
going in the no.
Yeah. So if you have everyone in society saying
Somebody's
what
gonna
they want
pull
to
up that
do,
GIF.
how they want to do it, when they want to do it, etc., like all of these things, then you end up with a
So how you
culture.
do it?
Oh, I'm doing just well. I honest to God, if you look it up, there's a televangelist, I believe.
Senator Armstrong.
Wait, am I
No,
cutting out?
when you look up Senator Armstrong,
Hello?
there's a televangelist who comes up, and I genuinely thought you guys were talking about some televangelist this
Nope.
entire time.
Nope.
I'm
You're
like, okay,
talking
I
about
don't.
Hello? Oh, did my network give out?